What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Next Win podcast with your host, Aunt Ma, co-host Justin Vaseur, and special guest, Mr. Bryan Pham, who has been here for a few episodes now. So thank you once again for being back. Um, in this episode, I want to talk about money. And that's what this podcast is all about, right? How to help people get to their next win. And so I watched a little bit of you on another podcast with somebody else. And you were talking about how you wanted to learn about money at a young age. So you started reading books and started learning about money. And my question is, why did you want to start learning about money? And what were you trying to do with that money at that age?
Yeah. So great question. I don't know. Just ever since I was a kid, I had always a fascination with money. I think it's mainly because I didn't grow up with any.
Yeah.
So for some more perspective, we lived in like a 600 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1 bath house with like 7 people.
Wow.
Oh,
Right. So growing up, like there was a bunk bed and there was a mattress underneath. So getting off bed is kind of funny because in the morning I just roll off the top bed, fall into the bottom bed, and then literally like 4 inches, there's like my desk where I did my homework.
Wow.
Right. So super small, compact
Yeah.
house, and it was. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like even though it was small and looking back, it was very humbling, but also very heartwarming at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. But all my life, like my parents always talked about money and how we never had enough of it, and to be successful in life, I need to make this amount of income. Like the amount of times my parents talk about money to me was insane. Right. But then
What did your parents do?
so my parents did a range of things. So my dad first got to America. He was like washing dishes, washing cars. To this day, like I still tip the car wash people a good amount because my dad said that was the hardest job he ever worked. Being in the sun all day, wiping down cars, like it was extremely hard. And then I think my mom washed dishes for a bit, but ultimately she ended up doing nails, which is very
Nice.
stereotypical of Vietnamese women. My dad eventually opened up his own business. So he did used appliances.
Nice.
So I spent half my childhood at streets picking up like used appliances for him to sell, going to junkyards with him, going to auction sales. Like getting dirty was not an issue for me growing up because that was a part of life.
That's why you're able to do real estate, because you knew how to fix machines.
Yeah, well, not as talented as my dad. Like, you can listen to like a washing machine. Oh yeah, this belt's off. I'm like, what the
yeah.
you tell.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But my fascination with money is always around. I always wanted to take care of my parents. Right. That was like my first fascination with money. My second fascination was how it made me feel about myself, because growing up, my parents were very strict about never letting any of my friends come over to our house. And I never understood why. It's because we're poor as shit and they didn't want people to like judge me or my peers to judge me, because we're always like 2-3 levels poorer than the next poor person.
Yeah.
Right. And then when I got an opportunity I never really thought about money in a special way besides I need to make more of it. But a lot of my life-changing experience happened in high school when I was a part of speech and debate. And I didn't know at the time, like, speech and debate with other schools is a very privileged thing. Like, having private coaches and being able to compete and being able to speak well is like a really, like, quote-unquote, a wealthy, affluent skill to have.
That's definitely where all the cool kids went to.
Yeah.
Like if you weren't cool, you were not in speech and debate. Like the
Yeah.
coolest kids in the school, the presidents, all that. they
Oh
were in
yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So luckily for me, even though our high school is relatively first generation immigrants, right? Kind of on the lower, used to be in the lower income side of town, but we were always like ranked top 3 or 4 in the nation for speech and debate for some odd reason. So shout out to my previous coach, Derek Yule, for keeping our program so strong. Because of that, people always held our speech and debate team with high regard. So I would be able to not only be like speech and debaters from other schools, but able to interact, like get invited over to their house. And when I got invited, my first one's like San Marino house. I was like, you have a tennis court in the back? You have
Yeah.
a swimming pool in the back? It's insane. Like, what did your parents do?
Yeah.
And it ended up being me talking to their parents.
That's so cool though.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, you have 2 cars? What? My parents
Yeah.
have one.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of mind blowing. And then I always ask them like, how'd you make your money? Like, what job? Are you a doctor? Like, how'd you make your money? And a lot of them, yeah, I invested. I did this and that. I got into real estate, and that started, planting a seed in my head that I could do this too.
And this was in
Right?
high school.
Yeah, that was like 13 or 14 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's where my first exposure to like this is what life could be.
That's
Mhm.
crazy. It's like the learnings you got at that age is so different from me. So I came from a middle class family. So yeah, sometimes we struggled, sometimes we had money.
Yeah.
Sometimes we had nice cars, sometimes we didn't, right? And so sometimes we had a house, sometimes we didn't have a house for a few months and we had to crash somewhere, you know? But the things that I learned at 13, 14 compared to you, like the opportunity you had was incredible. That's so unique to be able to talk to people at that level and ask about money. Where I'm here with my dad, who's a construction company owner, and he's teaching me how to put lawns in people's yards or paint a whole house. And I'm just learning, like, in a whole summer, I can make $200. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's so different. It's crazy.
Yeah. Even on my end, mine was just like, just save your money,
Right.
because we didn't have much either. And we weren't like super poor or anything, but there was never like, oh, invested in this or it was always like, save your money. I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now?
I mean, I've had other people tell my parents, you need to invest money for your kids. Get them these CD accounts or all the other things, and my parents just wave it off, like,
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like, nah, they don't
Yeah.
do that. But like, that's because we didn't have money to do that. We needed money for food and things like that.
Mhm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of went off topic a little
No,
bit.
not at all. Yeah, so that was kind of my first exposure. And then for me, learning about money was scary. Like my first time, I tried to like read the stock market. I didn't understand what the hell I was looking at.
Yeah.
All these numbers, graphs, number signs scared the crap out of me. So I kind of read books here and there, but it was always like on a back burner because I
Yeah.
felt like, why do I need to learn about this? I don't even have money right now.
That's not even a
Yeah.
passion for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Wait, so I'm sorry. You're reading stock books at 13, 14?
yeah, I'm a little older, like 15, 16.
I mean, that's still a really
Yeah, that's
young
still really
age.
good.
Holy.
Yeah. I always had a fascination with how money worked,
Yeah.
right? And eventually it kind of led me down the path of what does money even mean? It's just a man-made concept. But what does it represent to me? It represents doing the things I want to do and making the world a better place. Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, money does talk and money does bring influence and power, but you have to be in the right position, the right mindset to use it the right way.
That's
Wow.
insane. I'm trying to understand why you think like this because it's incredible. And you grew up with so many people in your household. Are you the oldest sibling? Is that why?
And I'm actually the second youngest, besides my younger brother.
Because usually it's like the oldest is the one that has to fight for the family, get the best jobs. But
Yeah.
actually, I'm gonna take that back. The oldest of the family is the one that secures the money, so they're working the safe jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
so the babies are the ones that risk it all because they're like, everyone's got me. If I lose it all, someone will take me in. And so it kind of makes sense a little bit being the second youngest.
Yeah, my situation is a little bit different. I think my siblings always had no interest in money,
Yeah.
and they're kind of borderline naive about money, right? They always assume that things are going to be okay, our parents are going to be okay. I was always the paranoid kid, where it's like, if I don't achieve this level of success, who's going to like take care of my parents during retirement?
Yep.
And it got I got like a blast of reality when I finally understood how money worked when I was like 22, and I looked through my parents' savings and investments. I'm like, they do not have enough money for retirement. I need to start
Yeah.
now. That's when I dabbled in Amazon and everything. And I was like, I need to become a millionaire before 30. All right. Because I'm like, oh my God, my parents, I mean, it's going to sound really messed up. Parents are idiots.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't save anything.
Yeah.
And
Well, they couldn't. They had so many kids, and
Yeah.
all the money went towards you guys.
yeah, so that was a big realization that I need to step my game up, that I need to learn, I need to grow, I need to make as much money as I can, right? Because I remember working my first software engineering job, and I graduated at 1920, so I graduated early.
You're talking about college?
Yeah, I graduated college.
1920?
Yeah,
2 years of college?
2.5 years.
For a 4-year school?
Yeah.
How did that even happen?
He's
So
just smart as hell.
I'm like
no,
8 years.
it's not because I was smart, because I was forced in this position to graduate early. So my sister loves academia. She is 4 years older than me. So she graduated undergrad. She took a year off, and then she applied for her PhD program. Our parents could only afford one kid in college at a time,
Right.
right? So either I take time off or I just cram everything and finish,
Wow.
right? So I chose obviously to cram everything, but I found that by cramming, I actually do better under pressure.
Oh.
Like my grades are significantly better because I had no free time. I had no time to be a jackass. I had no time to drink. All right, it's always homework, homework, homework. And as a result, I was really focused on all my classes and deliver like the highest GPA that I could. Right, and I remember getting an email from the school to verify my transcript when I was applying for grad school, and they were like, "Did you take 8 classes per quarter?" And typically the recommended amount is 2 to 3.
Oh my god.
So you take 8 classes per quarter. I'm like, yeah. Oh, we thought it was a mistake. I was like, yeah. So I found that I love pressuring myself. So that's the kind of way I run Asian Hustle Network with multiple different arms, because I feel like that keeps me at a really high caliber. So I think that being bored is great as well because it helps me my creativity. But when I have a lot of pressure on me, that's when I deliver the best level.
Where do you think this discipline comes from? Because if that was me and I had that kind of pressure, I'd be like, fuck it. Just let my brother go to college. I'll just start a business. I'll hustle. You know what I mean? I'll get 3 jobs.
Yeah.
But like, how did you get the discipline to do 8 classes to make sure you graduate in 2.5 years so your next sibling can go to college? Like,
Yeah.
I can care less about my siblings that way because, you know, that's just how I grew up,
Yeah.
right? I felt like I was the only child,
Yeah.
even though I did have siblings. But for you, it's total opposite.
Yeah. I think that character-wise, I'm a flawed person. And let me explain. As far as I can remember as a kid, there's always an inner voice in my mind, in my heart, that says very arrogantly, I'm better than everybody.
That's what you need. Yeah.
You know? It's like, it doesn't matter if I got an F on my test, I'm like, I'm still better than everybody.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
so funny.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that was my coping mechanism, given the environment that I was a part of and growing up. Like, I remember, like, talking to my parents, my dad especially, and people around my neighborhood growing up, and I told him, like, I wanted to do this and that, and he'll look at me and be like, you're overextending yourself. Like, everybody's born with a destiny. Everybody's assigned a destiny when they're born, and you can't break that destiny. So I always hated that. I'm like, I want to control my own destiny. Like,
What
why-
did he think your destiny was?
He just thought like my capability at the time was just like having a desk job and like like a safe job, and I shouldn't break the mode,
Yeah.
right? So I always hated that, and I felt like everyone around me was saying the same thing, right? And to combat that subconsciously, I told myself internally that I was the best, and that propelled me to like push myself to do anything, right?
Well, that's what all these books teach you. They
Yeah.
tell you to think like that,
Yeah.
and they tell you to act like that to a certain extent, not to be arrogant in public.
Yeah.
But if you always think that, you'll have this confidence to
Yeah.
do better. And I didn't think anybody ever listened to that. And you obviously did, and
Yeah.
that's
The
great.
fact that I didn't read books and just internalized it on my own,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
like
pretty.
that, I thought that was pretty unique. I thought I was weird at first, because at first like it could be interpreted as arrogance. Most of my reputation back in middle high school was like I was the arrogant kid who always thought everything was easy, you know. Because I had to tell myself that, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be motivated to like embrace every single challenge that comes my way. Right? If I didn't believe that, then I believe people around me when they say that. You know, there's a lot of times they're like, Brian, why are you doing this? Brian, why are you doing that? Why? It makes no sense. You know, the amount of times I heard that, I was like, okay, I need to block everybody out. I just need to think about what do I want to do and what can I be good at doing. Yeah.
It's been a minute since I heard why you doing this. And I
Yeah.
think that's such a great time to experience something in your life.
Yeah.
If you never get to that point where someone says, you know, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Then you haven't overextended yourself.
Yeah.
And bringing that up, it's kind of like I haven't heard that for like 5 years. So that's kind of a bad thing for me. I feel like we should always hear that.
Yeah. Once in a while, but we're at a different point in our lives, right? Things are a little bit slower, sort of. You know, family comes first.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't want to be asking yourself when you have a family, what are you doing in your life? You want to be like, okay, everything is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's very true.
Now that you know, like, about money,
Yeah.
what are some, I guess, basic rules or things that you can tell like the audience
Yeah.
that you should focus on? Or
This is straight my opinion, not
Yeah, yeah.
financial advice.
No.
I think if you're saving money, you're losing,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I think
I
that
agree.
money should always be reinvested into a new skill or something else that will help you level up, like your production for your videos or anything to like continue to level up. I believe that with a new skill, you'll probably make a lot more money quicker and faster than you ever save. Right? So continue to reinvest in yourself. Go to these conferences, like go eat dinner with your mentors or people that you admire. Right? Up your level, up your game, up your knowledge, read more. Right? Anything you do to invest into yourself to create a new skill, you're gonna like 10x or 100x that return later.
I totally agree with all of that for the right person.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can do that. So they think they can, they'll invest in themselves. But if you don't have the mindset and the discipline to stick with it, then you will lose money. So make sure when you guys invest in yourself that you're going to go through with it all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, if it fails, that's okay. You've learned something from it and you can start over. But if you never make it to the end and you just stop, then that's where you've wasted your money and your investment on yourself. So it's very hard to find people like Bryan who has that discipline. I think even for myself, you guys know me as the one who's a jack of all trades and tries to do so many things and things like that. But I am still not at the level of Bryan where I have that discipline to invest so much in myself only and keep going. I always stop somewhere, So I hope you guys have learned a lot from this episode. I definitely did. I feel like after every episode of listening to Bryan, I want to start either a nonprofit, a business, invest in myself, something. So guys, go follow Bryan. You'll see in the description box. Also, if you guys like our podcast, make sure to follow, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.